is a professional member of the Directors Association and is certified as a professional director as well as chairperson. She's currently serving as a chairperson for We Will Speak Out South Africa as part of her consultancy work and gender justice network. It's absolutely wonderful to connect with you this morning, Pontsho, and welcome to Al-Ansar.
Yeah, good morning, Razia. Also lovely to connect with you, and also greetings to all your listeners and also the viewers.
Now,
Thank
you
you for
have
this honor.
It's a pleasure. We want to know about all sorts of women and how they do what they do, and obviously see how we can also learn and take some key notes and inspiration and golden nuggets, so to say. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What made you go into the field of psychology? How did you end up in that path? What inspired you thereafter?
All right. For a very long time when I was young, I was unsure what I wanted to do. And I remember at some point when our guidance teacher had organized the career guidance outings for us as learners. I didn't know where I was going to be placed because I kept on changing over and over again. But
Right.
one of the people really who influenced my decision to go into psychology was actually my guidance teacher. He had studied psychology, and for me, what stood out for me about Mr. Delisle was that he usually spoke about how this influenced him as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed to me that psychology does not only become a career, but it's actually something that transforms you if you allow it to. So I think that's what got me into this. And also, maybe as a young person, I used to reflect a lot and also have some of my friends come to me if they had problems. So you
Uh-huh.
learn from an early age that, oh, I am a good listener. And so I initially thought, Razia, that I was going to be a psychologist sitting in a room listening to people's
Right.
problems, but that's not what God had in store for me. Instead, I
Mm-hmm.
use psychology in a different way because
Mm-hmm.
throughout I have not my experience of actually sitting and doing counseling is more limited than my experience of engaging with people and looking at issues of changing mindsets, rather than having those one-on-one sessions as people do think about psychologists.
Yeah. You used a very important word. You said, if you allow it. If you
Yes,
allow it, the change will
yes,
come. And of course, it's like take the horse to the water. If it doesn't
yes,
want to drink, nothing's going to happen. And of course, you decided to implement that. And as you said, God didn't have that plan for you because we do end up where we are meant to be. And that's the great
yes,
thing is that we have to be open to know, we're here to serve a purpose. Now, how
yeah.
has your studies in psychology and theology actually influenced your approach to humanitarian work?
Okay, so I've been fortunate that throughout my over 20 years in the NPO sector, I've been working for different organizations. The first two, one where I volunteered and another one where I worked, were really organizations, great organizations. One was
Mm-hmm.
People Against Abuse, the other one was NISA Institute for Women's Development. And both of them were really focused on providing a space, especially for women and children when they have experienced abuse.
Mm-hmm.
NISA also runs a shelter, and we were instrumental at the time as NISA in starting the national shelter movement of South Africa. So for me, psychology has always been about how are you engaging people. We are feminists and we believe in feminist values and I mean understanding that it's all about changing mindsets, which is not
Yep.
easy. And
Nope.
yeah, it takes years and years and at times you can continue with trainings and capacity buildings and you might not even see any change. So for me, that's what psychology has taught me, that changing mindsets takes time and you have to be patient. When it comes to theology, I then moved from NISA and I joined a faith-based organization. It's an international organization called World Vision. And for me, what was interesting was when I joined World Vision was for me to discover that Jesus was a feminist, that he was radical. Because at first I used to think about how oppressive we normally think about our faith. But within that space, I got to learn that you can even use the Bible as a tool for development. And that for me was really, I think it released me a lot. It allowed me to actually enjoy celebrating my faith. At NISA, my executive director was Muslim and is Muslim. At some point, she went on Hajj and came back and was wearing her scarf. And I would think, how is this woman a feminist and yet she would do this? But for me, I had to learn that our faith actually can be used because it's all a matter of interpretation. So theology
Absolutely.
has taught me, yeah, about interpreting scriptures and how, in most instances, scriptures have used to oppress and discriminate against people, but that most of our faith, actually none. I mean, I'm part of an interfaith collective. And what we've discovered is that our scriptures are all about unity, love, humanity, affording people dignity. And so, yeah, I think for me, that's how this has really influenced the kind of work that I do. That is, we continue to engage people. You start by seeing them first as human before anything else.
Absolutely beautiful. Now, everything, so that was your personal growth, and that's absolutely wonderful because I think we all, as you say, see things differently, implement it differently, but maybe all grow in the way that we are meant to. Now, can you share some of your highlights from over your 2 decades of service in the humanitarian sector? Because, of course, there's some benefit, there's something that absolutely fills you up by doing this humanitarian work. What are some of your highlights?
Okay, I think, like I said, with NISA, one of the great ones was the National Shelter Movement, being part of when it started. That was really great because right now it is a fully fledged organization where all shelters across the country work together and women can access the service much more easier from any of our different provinces. But also, my greatest highlight all the time, it's the little things. I do a lot of capacity building in my role, where we do trainings either for children themselves. When I was working as a child protection coordinator, we would have trainings for peer educators or for your traditional leaders, where you sit in a room with your chiefs, your yeah, your horsey, and you are discussing gender issues at that level, and even your faith leaders, your bishops, your apostles, and you sit in a room and suddenly someone has a light bulb moment. That is
Yep.
the greatest highlight for me of any time where somebody says, this is what I used to believe about how women need to be treated or how children need to be excluded from conversations because they're young and we make all the decisions on their behalf. For me, that's always a highlight because I believe that change comes from God. We cannot change people. And so when somebody gets that moment and you are part of the process of helping them to get there, that is the greatest honor.
Absolutely wonderful. As you say, it all comes from God. We are just merely tools. Now, what strategies, do you actually, I know you started about gender equity, right? So I'm keen to know what strategies do you believe are most effective in promoting gender equity and social inclusion within communities?
All right. One of the key things about gender equity is that we obviously recognize that it is about addressing unequal power relations, obviously between women and men, but also between different social groups. And so all the strategies are about rebalancing these power relationships and ensuring that there's equal rights, opportunities, as well as respect for all individuals, obviously, regardless of their social identity. So normally within JC, we talk about 5 domains, and their domains would be talking about access, decision making, participation, addressing the systems, as well as well-being. And so if you can get strategies that are looking at
I think there's a little bit of a problem.
but also I've learned that it's hello.
We're having a little bit of technical issue here, I think, with StreamYard, unfortunately. We're struggling to hear you,
Okay.
Pontsho.
Okay.
It seems to be making a sound. Tobacco, you can hear that as well. Tobacco is my tech. And we're having a little bit of a problem going through. Pontsho, can you hear us?